I've said it before and I'll say it again. Sunscreen is just one of the hardest skincare products to get right. I went through my own personal journey or my own personal struggle to find that one sunscreen that was just perfect for me. And I'll tell you, it was a very traumatic experience. Once I found that product that really worked for my skin, I just kept repurchasing it for like 4 years straight. No reason to change something that's working, right? However, in the last year or so, I've definitely become a little bit more adventurous. I've stepped outside of the box and outside of my comfort zone when it comes to sunscreens. So give this video a big thumbs up because today I'm going to be sharing with you the sunscreens that I have tried along this journey that have really stood out to me, that are great sunscreens. I've got all kinds of sunscreens for you guys. We've got Japanese sunscreens, Korean sunscreens, we've got chemical sunscreens, we've got a mineral sunscreen, we've got sunscreens that are great for when you're sweating, when you're active, and I even have a sunscreen that you can use for your body. Okay, so let's get started with what I call my old school favorite. This is the sunscreen that I repurchased for nearly 4 years straight. This is a Japanese sunscreen, and this is the Shiseido Senka Anti-Aging UV Sunscreen. Now, this is an SPF 50 sunscreen with a PA of +4. This is a chemical sunscreen, and it actually uses a mix of what is considered a new generation chemical sunscreen filter, as well as some older UV filters that we might be more familiar with. Now, why do I point out like the age or the generation of the chemical filter? Well, the reason that I do that is because there is a new generation of UV filters that are actually better. Basically, they are more photostable. They're going to protect, they've got like higher protection for you. They are longer lasting. They're more stabilized. This is very important because we want sunscreens that are not only going to give us a high amount of protection, but they're also going to be able to withstand UV rays and continue to be stable, continue to give us protection for hours instead of breaking down. This is very important, right? So this is actually a great Japanese sunscreen. Now, a little bit of a backstory. You know, when I was kind of going through my first journey to find, you know, my first daily sunscreen, really the best sunscreen that you could find was always going to be Japanese sunscreen. And that's still not untrue. However, I do believe that the Korean market has caught up in the last 5 to 6 years. I definitely do feel that Korean sunscreens and Japanese sunscreens right now are pretty neck and neck, to be honest with you. But back in the day, Japanese sunscreens were it because they really did just like have access to this new technology, these new generation filters. And not only that, but they're able to create a very cosmetically elegant sunscreen. Now, this sunscreen, I would call this a moisturizing sunscreen, and I'd really recommend this more for very dehydrated types or very dry skin types. This is not going to be a great choice for you if you have a lot of sebum production, if you're a little bit more on the oily side, or if you don't want to become shiny in the middle of the afternoon, because this is a highly moisturizing sunscreen. I will also point out the fact that this one is going to take just a little bit longer to dry down if you like to do makeup application after your sunscreen. So just a heads up, because it is so moisturizing, it does require about a 5 to 10 minute dry time. So let's just quickly talk about ingredients. Let's first talk about what's in here. There is drying alcohol or simple alcohol. Now, the reason that I point this out is not to tell you that it's going to dry you out, because as I just said, this is a moisturizing sunscreen, but you will find a lot of sunscreens will contain drying or what's really considered a simple alcohol. Now, the reason the simple alcohols are generally in sunscreens are to help the formulas dry down quicker. As I said, this one does have a little bit of a wait time. And can you imagine what the wait time would be if we didn't have the alcohol in this formula? Personally speaking, I usually am sensitive to simple alcohols in skincare products, especially skincare products like toners, serums, things of that nature. I try to keep an open mind about alcohol because it can really function in the formula of a skincare product, not necessarily always there to dry skin or to remove oil. It's not always functioning in that way. So I try to keep an open mind. For those of you who like to avoid it, I just want to let you know it is in this sunscreen. Now we do have a couple of other beneficial ingredients in the sunscreen as well. We've got hyaluronic acid, coenzyme Q10. We've also got potent antioxidant vitamin E, which is always great if you can find antioxidants that are also combined with UV filters, because it's going to give you even better protection from UV damage. Now, this sunscreen generally retails around the $12 mark. So the next sunscreen that I want to talk about is what I call the best budget sunscreen. This sunscreen is super affordable. Plus, it's got a great formula to back it up. And this is the Apieu Pure Block Daily Sun Cream. Now, this is SPF 45 with a PA of +3. Now, don't let that SPF 45 deter you if you're really like into SPF 50, which I have to be honest with you, I prefer to see SPF 50. However, researching into the differences between the two, I was quite surprised to find out that it's really not that big of a difference. And in fact, the difference between SPF 30 and SPF 50 is about 1% less of the coverage. So can you imagine what the difference between SPF 45 and 50 is? It's not a lot. So not anything to be too concerned about, at least in my opinion. Now this is a chemical sunscreen, and this uses a new generation filter called Tinosorb S. Now this is important that I note this because Tinosorb S is actually considered to be one of the very best chemical UV filters out there. Why? Because it is incredibly stable. It's very powerful. It's got great coverage, but it's like photo stability is fantastic. Not only is it stable just on its own, but when you use this in combination with other, say, older chemical filters that may be less photo stable, Tinosorb S actually increases their photo stability as well, which is pretty darn cool. Now, another filter that's being used in this is avobenzone, which is more of an older generation sunscreen filter, which can be not as stable. But because it's combined with the Tinosorb S, it actually makes the avobenzone a lot more photostable. So this is just a really well-crafted, really well-formulated chemical sunscreen. Now, this is definitely on the moisturizing side of sunscreens. I would never call this sunscreen matte. I would say the finish on this is a touch dewy. Nothing that's going to make you super duper shiny or anything like that, but it definitely isn't one that's going to keep you matte throughout the day. If you kind of get my drift on that one, it's neither too dewy and it's definitely not matte. It's somewhere in the middle. I would say that this is actually pretty good for most skin types. I would say this is going to be good for combo skin types. I think this was also good for dry skin types, dehydrated skin types. Super oily skin types may not appreciate this formula. As I said, it's a touch dewy, but if you really want a moisturizing formula that's not going to dry out your skin, aka therefore creating more sebum production, this might not be a bad one to explore. Now, there are no simple or drying alcohols in this formula, which I really do appreciate. This also contains a couple of silicones in it, and it does have added fragrance with a lot of botanical and fruit extracts, which makes sense because this one smells quite fruity. It's almost like a tangerine kind of scent. I find it quite pleasant, but just for you guys who, don't like fragrance or want to be aware of the fragrance, there is a little bit of a scent here. It dissipates pretty quickly. Like as soon as you apply it onto your face, you're not going to smell it anymore, but when you're putting it on, you will smell that kind of fruity fragrance. Now, as I said, this is my budget pick because this routinely retails for about $8. $8. And you get, this is the average size. This is about 50 milliliters, which is an average size for an Asian sunscreen. So the best mineral sunscreen. I bet some of you guys were waiting for me to talk about a mineral sunscreen. Now, I want to just let you guys know my bias against mineral sunscreens. I just generally have not found a lot that I really like. You know, they tend to be a little drying on my skin. They can be very chalky and give like a white cast, or even not even a white cast, but even like a gray cast on my skin tone, making it look very ashy. I just have not had a very good time with them. So I am going to only highlight one mineral sunscreen because this is a mineral sunscreen that I reach for time and time again. I also want to, before I even introduce what this is, I also want to let you guys know that this is a double category. This is the best mineral sunscreen, but this is also going to be the entry for the best sweat-proof sunscreen. So this is the Make Prime UV Defense Me Blue Ray Sun Cream. This is 100% mineral filters being used here, titanium dioxide as well as zinc oxide. Now, as I mentioned before, mineral sunscreens usually drive me crazy with the white cast, and they are known traditionally to have white cast, especially when we're talking about the ingredient or the UV filter of titanium dioxide, because this is actually something, this is a component of white paint. If you guys have ever heard of titanium white, that is titanium dioxide. So it makes sense that this would have a white cast. However, out of many mineral sunscreens that I've tried, I can honestly tell you that this sunscreen has the very least white cast that I have ever come across with mineral filters. It's pretty exciting, to be completely honest with you, because on my skin tone, I don't really see a white cast at all. If you look really hard, you could probably see it, but it really didn't bother me, and it didn't affect how my skin looked. Now, if you are a little bit darker than me, you may start to notice that white cast, but if you're fans of mineral sunscreens, I think you will still find this to be the most minimal white cast of many, many mineral sunscreens. So I also put this in my entry for sweat proof, because even though this is a cream, it does have a bit of a moisturizing effect to it. I would also say that the finish on this is very neutral to almost matte. No dewiness here at all. And in fact, the zinc oxide has a natural tendency to control sebum production. It has a natural ability to kind of sort of mattify sebum production. So this is actually, even though it's a cream and even though it is sort of recommended as like a moisturizing sunscreen, this is actually excellent for those with additional sebum production on their skin. If you're very, very dry, you may not like this one because it does, as I said, it does kind of have like a sebum controlling effect to it. That is part of the reason why, plus the finish, which is a little bit more matte-like, why I like this for being very active when I'm going to be sweating. Because you may be like me when you sweat with sunscreen on and it like really gets like really drippy and it drips into your eye and it stings because you're like your sunscreen is rolling into your eyes. That is why I like this one, because I just don't get that. Even when I'm sweating hard, this sunscreen stays put. It doesn't roll in with my sweat and then get into my eyes and this whole big like ordeal. It's not like that. There's no stinging. So I really like this one for really hot, like summer days. I know I'm gonna sweat when I go to the gym. If I know I'm gonna be really active outside, maybe doing a hike, a long walk, a run, this is the sunscreen that I reach for. So this formula contains no simple or drying alcohols at all. It also does use quite a few silicones, which is I think why it has such great staying power on the skin. And it does, heads up, use some essential oils. We've got bergamot oil being used in this formula. I also want to point out that this also has some additional protection beyond just UVA and UVB protection in the form of protecting you from infrared radiation, which is also considered heat aging. I actually have a full review video on this sunscreen. If you want to learn more about that and learn more about this sunscreen in depth, I'm going to link that for you guys right up here somewhere so you guys can check that out if you're interested in learning more. Now this one's a little bit more expensive. This retails around $30, and it is a little bit more. You get about 70 milliliters. So the next category of sunscreens is a little bit goofy because I really wanted to include these two products because I really like them a lot. I just didn't really know how to set them apart from the other products. So this category is called Pretty and Aesthetic, but please know that these sunscreens are way more than just the looks alone. So I'm going to be talking about the Thank You Farmer Sun Project Water Water Sun Cream, as well as the Sun Project Shimmer Sun Essence. So the Water Sun Cream is an SPF 50 with a PA of +3. Now, I thought that this was a fully chemical sunscreen, but it actually, in fact, is a hybrid between chemical filters and mineral filters. We've got new generation chemical filter Uvinyl A+ being used here, plus we've also got titanium dioxide, a mineral UV filter. Part of the reason why I think I thought that this was a fully chemical sunscreen is the fact that the formula is just so elegant on the skin. And like I said, I do have a bias against mineral sunscreens, and I just feel that they're not as elegant on the skin. However, this one is a hybrid and it completely fooled me. You know what I mean? So it's definitely a beautiful formula. It's very, very lightweight. And in fact, I would actually call this like a cross between a cream and a gel. It does have a very hydrating, watery type of feeling on the skin. Now, I think that that's important to make that distinction as hydrating and watery. Even though, like I said, it's kind of like a cream gel mix, this definitely feels a lot more like a hydrating sunscreen than the previous sunscreens that I've really kind of categorized as moisturizing. That makes a really big difference, right? Now this one I think is going to be good for dehydrated skin, combo skin. I think that this could actually be appropriate for oily skin as well. Now I was actually very surprised to find that this did contain simple alcohol as well, because it sure doesn't feel like it. I've used a heck of a lot of sunscreens in the past with drying alcohols that have dried me out. Now, the thing about drying alcohols, at least for my skin, and when I tend to get irritated by them, it doesn't always happen it can on the first use, but really I find that, you know, the true test is using it long term, because usually that slight irritation will start on day 3 or day 4. You know what I mean? And even though I used this consistently for weeks on end, no irritation. I was really, really shocked because I was very apprehensive about that alcohol in this formula. And it just worked really well. So this is formulated perfectly. Now, drying time on this one, again, because it's got that alcohol in it, which I think is functioning in this formula for the dry time, there's hardly any dry time. I would say like 2 minutes, maybe not even, before you could potentially put another layer of, you know, like makeup or something like that on top of it. Finish on this one is pretty neutral, even though it is very hydrating feeling on the skin. This is not one that's going to give you additional dew on your skin, and it's definitely not going to mattify your skin. Pretty neutral in between those two finishes. Now, in addition to the drying alcohol in the sunscreen, we also have the use of a few silicones, and we also have additional benefits from Centella, hyaluronic acid, and aloe. It also does have added fragrance to it, and in fact the scent is quite similar to the Apieu, and that it's kind of a fruity scent, and I would actually call the Apieu is, I mean, let's get like fancy here. Apieu is like a tangerine scent, and the Thank You Farmer is like a peach scent. Very pleasant, very light, dissipates on application, but there is added fragrance in here for those who prefer to avoid. Now, I do want to do an honorable mention for a similar product in the same line from Thank You Farmer, which is their Shimmer Sun Essence. Now, this doesn't have as much coverage. This is SPF 30 with PA+. Not something that I would recommend as your only sunscreen, but I actually like this because this functions as a tone-up cream or a makeup primer, or both. This is actually a pretty cool product. It does have some micro shimmers in it that I would liken closer to a pearlescent finish than I would to anything remotely near glitter. It's very, very subtle, and it's very, very pretty. So if you're a fan of kind of the glass skin look, kind of that slightly shimmery Korean style makeup look, this is a great makeup product. And both of these retail about $20 to $25. Now let's talk about body sunscreen. We never talk about body sunscreen for many reasons, I think. Well, first of all, skincare, we think face, right? But you definitely need to be using sunscreen on your body. Any parts of your body that are exposed to UV rays are going to get just as much damage as any part of your face that is exposed to UV rays. We should be protecting our body skin the same way that we protect our face, and I know a lot of us out there just aren't doing it. Part of the reason, at least that I can say from my personal experience, why I struggle with using consistent daily body sunscreen is the fact that these Asian sunscreens that I love to death are tiny, right? They're so small. And even though most of them are fairly affordable, to put this all over my body, I mean, I would go through so many of these in a month, it would start to become unaffordable. Just not gonna happen, right? It's too expensive. Even though I want the same coverage of these sunscreens that I'm putting onto my face, I just can't afford it in these small bottles. And it drives me crazy that they don't create bigger sizes. Now, Western sunscreens, the problem that I've had with them, using them just in my body alone, sure, they're okay, they give you protection, but the biggest problem that I have is the finish. They're so heavy, and honestly, some of them are greasy, and I get nervous, especially if I'm wearing like a skirt or shorts. I've got this greasy sunscreen on my legs, and then I sit somewhere, like, am I gonna leave a mark from my greasy legs? No bueno. I want Asian sunscreen on my body if I can help it and if I can afford it, which is why I'm really excited to show you guys this product, because this is what I use on my body and it's fairly affordable. You get the Asian sunscreen benefits, high SPF coverage and cosmetically elegant that dries down quickly. This is a Japanese sunscreen. This is the Nivea Sun Protect Water Gel. Now, before we go any further, I want to let you guys know this is my body screen that I use all the time, which means I buy it by the case full. This is an old packaging. The packaging has been updated. So if you guys do want to check this one out, please do not freak out if you do not get a white bottle. It is now kind of a blue or purple bottle, but it should look just like this, just a different color. Okay, going forward. So this is SPF 50 with a PA of +3. And the reason why I love this for the body is the fact that it is about 3 times the size as these suckers. These suckers are about 50 milliliters, and this guy is 140 milliliters. So nearly 3 times the size of your normal face sunscreen in Asian beauty. Plus, I think it's just perfect for body sunscreen because it comes with a pump, which I really appreciate. It makes application super easy. Now, I just want to let you know, even though I am recommending this as body sunscreen for those of you who have been in the same dilemma as me, you can use this on your face, you guys. This is still an excellent face sunscreen. And it's pretty affordable too. I mean, these usually retail about anywhere between $12 to $16. Now, this is a chemical sunscreen, and this uses new generation filters. Pretty much, I think part of the reason why we consider Asian sunscreens to be so advanced is because they are early adopters of the new generation of chemical sunscreen filters. And in fact, a lot of these new generation, in fact, all of these new generation chemical filters, you will never find in I was going to say Western products, but I guess I should even be more specific and say products from the United States, because the FDA has not approved any of these chemical sunscreen filters. Now, here's the thing before you freak out. That's not because they're not good. In fact, they are excellent and better than the FDA approved chemical sunscreen filters. But here's the thing, getting anything approved by the FDA these days, it's impossible. It doesn't matter if it's even better than what's already currently available on the market. It's just, there's no way. The rules are too complicated. So I think that's part of the reason why all of these Asian products are so advanced and so cosmetically elegant. And the reason why we find them to give us better protection is because they're just using technology that, at least speaking from, you know, my North American experience, you just can't find that here. There's no way you can manufacture this here, at least in the United States. So, rant over. Let's talk about this sunscreen. So it does use new generation Uvinyl A+ chemical filter. It is also, it does have alcohol in it. Now, this one, I did find the alcohol in this dries down incredibly fast, by the way. I love that. I have used this on my face. This is one of those products that has alcohol in it that will dry, like kind of start to make my face dry and uncomfortable, like the 3rd consecutive day that I've used it. So it's not even like very irritating on the first wear, but it's just one of those things, if you continue to do it and you're sensitive to alcohol in skincare, you may not like this one on your face. But if you don't mind alcohol in your skincare, if you don't have problems with it, it actually is a really nice facial sunscreen too, because it does dry down quickly. And in fact, this would be the one that I would say out of all of these is really best for oily skin, because it has no dewy finish. It doesn't like dry, like it doesn't like stop your sebum production. It's not trying to like mattify your skin. It just like lets your skin breathe without any heavy weight to it. This also does have added fragrance. It does of course have silicones in it, you know, and it also has hyaluronic acid in it. Now, as I pointed out, this is about 3 times the size of general sunscreens. Asian sunscreens are about 50 milliliters. This is 140 milliliters, about 3 times the size. So you can use this on your face, you can use this on your body. At about $16, this is a pretty darn good deal. And finally, I want to talk to you about my daily favorites, or dare I mention it, holy grails. Holy grails can mean a lot for different people, so let's just stick to daily favorites. These are the sunscreens that I reach for time and time and time again, the ones that work perfectly for me. Now, both of these sunscreens have their own dedicated reviews on them, so I want to kind of go through these a little bit quickly, but I will link them up here for you guys if you want to learn more. So first one is going to be the Klairs Soft Airy UV Essence. Now this is SPF 50 with a PA of +4, which is pretty much the ultimate protection that you can expect to find in a sunscreen. Now this is a chemical sunscreen. This uses 2 new generation chemical filters, Uvinyl A+, which has been showing up in a lot of these sunscreens, plus Uvinyl T150. This is a beautiful sunscreen. It's kind of like a water gel type texture, very, very hydrating and moisturizing, I would say. And this one, dry time is pretty quick too, probably 2 to 5 minutes. So the Klairs Soft Airy UV Essence doesn't contain any drying alcohols, and it also doesn't contain any silicones. And these two, in this category, these 2 sunscreens are the only ones on this list that don't contain silicones. Unfortunately, this one does have a few essential oils being used in the formula. Just heads up for those who do not like essential oils. Now this one, as I mentioned, has a little bit more of a dewier finish, and when I first discovered it, my skin was very dry and the environment was very dry. It was fall and winter time. However, I've been using that Klairs now for nearly 6 months, and I'm starting to notice now that my skin is going a little bit more combo and the air is getting a lot more humid, I'm getting a little bit shinier from using this sunscreen. So that's why I have 2 daily sunscreen favorites, and a more recent discovery that's actually, I think, going to be the one that I use all summer long is going to be the Purito Centella Green Level Safe Sun SPF 50 PA +4. Now the reason why I've been using these interchangeably is the fact that the formulas are basically the same. Like, I didn't think that was even possible. I didn't think it was possible because the Klairs formula is just so good for my skin. Now this one uses the exact same chemical filters, super photostable, new generation chemical filters. Now this is, the texture of this one is a little bit more like a cream, but it wears very lightweight on the skin. And the finish on this one, while it's not mattifying, I call this a neutral finish. It's not going to add dew to your skin. It's not going to do anything to your skin. It feels very moisturizing on the skin, but it doesn't add shine. And that is why I've been reaching for this in the warmer weather now, because I noticed that like in the middle of the afternoon, like with the Klairs, I might get a little shiny up here, a lot less shine with the Purito. So I think this is going to be my warm weather pick. And as I said, their formulas are pretty much the same. Now this one does not contain, again, no drying alcohols here and no silicones, but they just can't stop with the essential oils. This one contains lavender oil, which, you know, not my favorite thing in the world, but like I said, sunscreen is the hardest product to get right, so sometimes you just have to make some concessions. You just have to decide which ones you're comfortable making. So that is my incredibly epic list of all the sunscreens that have really impressed me on my crazy sunscreen journey. So now it's your turn. Let me know in the comment box below, what is your absolute favorite facial sunscreen? Or maybe you don't have like a holy grail, but just let me know, which one are you using right now? So let me know in that comment box. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, please consider subscribing. I release 2 new skincare videos every single week, and don't forget to turn on those notifications so you never miss the next time I upload the new video. I cannot wait to see you guys in the next video. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and we'll talk really soon. Bye guys.